Okay, we're live. I think we're live. We're just going to check that everything is working. Um, so, those of you who are in the chat, please introduce yourselves. Let us know where you're watching from. And also let us know if you can hear myself and if you can hear David. So, David, can you say something just to make sure that everybody can hear?
Hi, Nathan. Is my voice all right? Can you hear me?
Can people hear David? Is it David or Davide?
Second one, Davide.
Davide. Sorry,
Almost,
sorry,
almost there.
sorry, sorry. So,
No worries, no worries.
let us know. Can you hear Davide? And can you hear me, please? Let us know. We can hear. Awesome. So, as you all know, my name is
Yeah.
Nathan. I'm Ninja Monkey from the channel Ninja Monkey. And I have a special guest, Davide. I think it's definitely a collab that's been waiting for quite a while. I'm really, really, really happy to have Davide here because he's done a lot for students. And I know that there's a lot of people here who are students probably watching, and a lot of people who are also probably just wanting to know information about the borders. So I've actually put together some questions for him, but the very first thing I want to do is allow Davide to introduce himself, where he's from, etc. So off to you, Davide.
Yes, thanks a lot, Nathan, for having me to your channel. It's a pleasure. My name is Davide. I'm from Italy, but I've been living in Japan for 13 years now. And as you mentioned, one of the things that I've been doing in the last months is to try to help as much as possible students to enter Japan. Still, we are not there. Of course, there were some updates this week, but I think there is still a lot to do, and maybe we can talk a little bit about it later.
Yeah. So how long did you say you'd been in Japan, and what took you to Japan? Why Japan?
So I came 13 years ago, and I came as a language student. That's one of the reasons why, of course, I'm close to students. So I came to Japan to study the language. Originally, I thought to study only for 6 months, but then that was 13 years ago. So obviously, those 6 months became 13 years. And yeah, so it started as a desire to learn the language, and it ended up to be a choice of life. It was the best thing I've done in my life, coming to Japan to study. Of course, he opened me so many doors, and now I'm still here.
Okay, excellent. Well, I'll introduce myself for those of you who might be coming over from David's social platforms. My name's Nathan. I'm not in Japan. A lot of people think that I'm in Japan, and I'm actually not in Japan. I'm actually in a little place called Gibraltar. It's a British overseas territory. It belongs to the United Kingdom, and the reason why I'm making these videos are actually because I want to get into Japan. I love the country. I used to travel to Japan about 3 times a year. I'm a teacher, which gives me a lot of free time, which gives me a lot of time to actually travel around the country. So I started investigating and just looking at when Japan would reopen. And I obviously thought, if I'm doing all this research for myself, then why not share it with everybody else? So that's what's happened. And obviously, as you've mentioned, there's been a lot of information, misinformation, updates, changes, etc. So I'm really, really happy to have you here. So maybe together we can try to clarify some of the points. And for those of you who are in the chat, I really appreciate you coming and tuning in. And if you do have any questions, you can leave them in the chat. Although I can see that there's a lot going on in the chat, so probably it will be very difficult to answer all the questions, obviously. So thank you very much. I've got some questions for Davide, or some points that we're gonna sort of discuss and talk. I've got them on my phone, so excuse me. I'm just going to check here on the phone. So first of all, as someone who works in education in Japan, how has this affected you personally, if you don't mind answering that question? Because obviously it's affected all the students, but sometimes we forget that there's another side, the teachers and the education establishments over there in Japan.
Yeah, so I'm also the CEO of a study abroad agency here in Japan called Gogo Nihon, and the work we do is basically we help people to live and study in Japan. So we process their visa, we suggest them the document to submit, which schools to study, etc. And as you said, of course, the students are the one that are mostly affected because they can actually they cannot start studying, they cannot start working, they cannot start going to the country they plan to go for so long. So of course they are the most affected, but together with them, schools and also agencies like us are heavily affected by this travel ban, this extended travel ban, and now this extreme amount of paperwork and conditions that people need to follow in order to be able to even apply. Not even entering, but we're talking about applying.
Yeah.
And I'll give you just a feeling, because I don't want to now talk about my work. I don't think that's the purpose of this live. But things that before took, for example, 1 day to do, supporting one student to do something, now it took 5 days. So basically, the job gets 5 times more to do the same thing, just because of all these extra things, information to search, information to share with students. Sometimes we can't unfortunately answer questions to students because no one knows, not even the schools knows, because the government has been so unclear.
Yeah.
So we are in this stage right now. We want to do the best we can. We want to bring students in Japan. We want to bring people in Japan. Of course, I think the end is going to be there. People eventually will be in Japan, but it's taking so long and just affect our life in a way that we have just to work much more and just hoping to get to the point where things go back to normal.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's the end game here, to try and get everybody into Japan. Obviously, reminding viewers that we are not the government. We don't have power to
No.
open the borders. We cannot change things. In a way, me here in Europe, I have very little power, and I know, as somebody who's traveled to Japan a lot and have a lot of Japanese friends, that the Japanese system can be very complicated, very slow, and very unique and different to the rest of the world. So I really do appreciate that you're there and you have been sharing and trying to work with different entities and institutes or whatever to try and get students in. So
Thank you.
actually, before we carry on, I thought it would be a really good way to get to know you a little bit better, because believe it or not, this is actually the very first time that both of us have met each other. Not even, obviously we've spoken to each other in social media, but we've never spoken to each other. So I've got prepared some questions for you that you need to try and answer as quickly as you can, just to make it a little bit more fun and a little bit more light-hearted, compared to the whole just talking about the border, which we'll get to in a minute. So try to answer as quickly as you can. I'll get to know you a little bit better, and if you're a viewer, then you can try and answer in the chat. Also, it'd be quite interesting to see what people think.
So I have to answer as quick as I can,
as
right? Sorry,
quick
just to
as
to
you
see.
can.
Okay.
It's gonna be. I'm gonna give you 2 options, and you got to choose one or the other. Okay.
Right.
So,
Okay.
rice or noodles?
Noodles.
Udon or soba noodles in that case?
Udon.
McDonald's or Moss Burger?
No. Moss Burger, but just just because I have to pick one.
Spring or autumn?
Spring.
Pokemon or Mario?
Mario. Of course, I'm Italian. Come
True.
on.
Dogs or cats?
Cats. I have a cat.
Oh yes, you do. It's true. Bus or trains?
Trains.
Beer or sake?
Sake.
Sushi or takoyaki?
Sushi.
J-rock or J-pop?
J-rock.
Okay. Dubbed?
Not a big fan
Dubbed
either.
or subtitled?
Whoa, that's. I'm not English. My English level is not good enough to know the difference. I guess dubbed. No. Wait, no, not dubbed. Subtitle.
Okay,
I want the
okay.
original
Onsen,
language. Yeah,
onsen
dubbed.
or beach?
Beach.
Manga or anime?
Anime.
And the last one, tempura or gyoza?
Tempura.
Okay. So some viewers are asking, why the questions? Because at the end of the day, we are human and we can have a little bit of fun. And I want to get to know Davide a little bit better. And also, YouTube isn't just about all, straight things. Sometimes we also have to see the fun thing. So, but we'll.
And also, Nathan, wake me up, because let's say to everyone that it's
It's
midnight
midnight
here,
in
so I
Japan.
need some kind
Yes,
of
yes, 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 yes.
yeah
Definitely.
game to start with before I get the
Yes.
serious questions.
So, getting to some of these questions, so the Japanese government, they announced some measures on the 5th of November, I think it was the 5th or the 6th of November. And at first, when the announcement came out, everybody was very excited because everybody
Yeah.
thought that it would mean finally being able to enter the country. So, what on earth was
Hmm.
that?
What's going on?
What's going on?
Yeah. So, yeah. So first of all, exactly like you said, the 5th of November, the first announcement sounded really, really good. I myself went into a live streaming, raising my hands like a victory, like, the time was come, and everyone else, we were about maybe even 800 at some point, were super excited because it sounded, from the announcement, sounded like, okay, we were there. Of course, I said in the streaming, wait for the conditions, because there is no way everyone will enter at the same time. It's under 48,000 students that are waiting right now. So there is no way that Japan suddenly let under 48,000 students come all together when they keep saying they want to do by stages. But of course, no one could expect after 2 hours. So I remember I went out with few friends, not to celebrate, because I was supposed to go out anyway, but completely not imagine that when I came back, I start going on Twitter, and then all the students were absolutely pissed, absolutely devastated by knowing that the Ministry of Education specifically added some criteria, which are basically based on your COE, Certificate of Eligibility, issuance.
The date
You
when it
have to
was
wait to
issued,
the
basically.
date
Yeah.
when is issued. When is issued? So it's on. If you have it, you can see. I think it's on the top right. But anyway, it's on the Certificate of Eligibility, the date that it was issued. Based on that date, you know when you can start to apply to later enter to Japan. It's not even when you can actually enter Japan.
Yes.
It's when you can start to apply. So it takes, with all the time is not clear yet how long it takes, because no one went through
So
it. So I
has
don't
that
want to
changed,
say
Davide? Have the
what.
date changed?
No, the date didn't change.
So
So still
yes.
now.
So actually, if I just stop there, because I think that you've answered a question that a lot of people are probably asking, is when can you
Yeah.
apply? And you can apply depending after the date that you're allowed to enter. So if you don't, hopefully things do change. Obviously, we're here and we're hopeful that things do change because we want people to enter Japan. No,
Yeah.
but if you do have
Mhm.
a certificate of eligibility and it falls into those dates, then you're probably
At
not
the
going to get
moment, that
very
is not
far
updated.
trying to apply now for February. You've got to apply for the date
Yeah.
that's set. So
Yeah. Correct. Moreover, you also need a
yeah,
document called examination certificate, or whatever you translate in English. Sorry about, there may be a few
yeah, it's
translations
fine.
going
Yeah.
on right now. There is not an official translation, I think, but that the school will have to give you. Now, the thing that it seems, again, I use a lot of maybe, it seems, not because I want to be vague, but because no student has gone through yet. So until we see a few students going through the whole process and we actually understand exactly what it means, even the school don't understand few of the things that the government is asking. So I don't want to be in the position of trying to guess, and maybe I confuse people. But it seems that the school had to get this examination certificate for each students one by one. So they cannot send a list, and for example, they have 40 students waiting for November or for December. They send all together and they get a cumulative answer. But it seems that they need to prepare these with each student, to send to each student, wait the reply for each student. So it's a massive work for the schools, which obviously will be doing it, but it will take time for them too. So there is not just a time for the process, there is a time to process each student. So that's why when they say you enter from November, you may actually have to wait a month after,
Yeah.
if we're lucky. So I don't
So
wanna now.
if you are literally one of the lucky ones where the COE
Yeah,
falls in line with in theory, being able to enter in November, you need to remember that your establishment, your education establishment, or whatever,
Yeah,
they need to
correct.
get things in place. They need to apply for a special certificate, I believe, which then they will pass on to you, which then you will use to apply for your visa to enter into Japan. That's the way that I understand it anyway. So you
Yeah.
cannot just enter with your certificate of eligibility. I can't even say it. You need to
Really.
enter with a
Yeah.
COE, and you need to get your institution to send you to apply on your behalf for a certificate, which both things together would then, in theory, allow
Yeah.
you to enter Japan, and that's going to take time.
You still have to go. You're never going to be able to enter with the COE
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah,
You
yeah,
still have to go to your local
yeah,
embassy to get your visa and give the
yeah,
COE and get your
yeah.
visa. But you
Just
cannot do that right now, like you
yeah,
said, because you need the letter, and you cannot get this letter if it's not your time. It's just a
yeah,
big question mark of when people will actually be able
yeah,
to enter. However, it's true that the procedure has started. I know schools are moving. So it's not that now everyone is waiting and you're going to enter in 4 months. So if you're in November, I think it's realistic to say, but again, understand that what I'm saying is my personal opinion based on what I see now. In a week or two, things could be actually faster, hopefully, or could be actually slower, who knows. But I feel that, by the end of middle December, I think people that were supposed to enter, or the application can start in November. After a month and a half, they should be able to be in Japan. So please contact your
yeah.
school,
Definitely.
uh, contact in case you're a worker watching this, of course, you also have your employer. Please get in touch with them, give them their time. They have the most interest of having you to fly in, because that's what they've been waiting also together with you for 2 years. Don't think that the school have a joy in anything of this.
Yeah,
They've been destroyed by this ban. So they can't wait to have their students regularly enter Japan, and they're doing everything they can. It's just going to take time because of this I don't know, this thing they've
yes.
created now to
It's like
so many
it's like
steps. That's
extra.
very
It's like
Japanese, but
red
it's
tape, extra
annoying.
red tape. So
Yeah.
I'm literally gonna pause, and I'm gonna re-explain things as we go along, because I know that many of the questions are based on this specific issue, this specific thing, and you have explained it very well. And I just want to break it down so that anybody who's sort of watching or is joining in now has a little bit of a better understanding. So remember, the first step is depending on when your COE was issued, will depend on when you can apply to get your special certificate, which will then allow you to enter Japan. So I want to make that very clear, because a
That's
lot of
yeah.
people
Yeah.
are very excited, understandably wanting to enter Japan, and they're wanting to apply now, even though their COE requirement won't allow them to enter till January. So you might need to pause. You might need to, no problem, still contact your education establishment, but just remember that I don't work over there in education, but I can imagine that they will be prioritizing the people that have their COEs for now, instead of the people
Mhm.
who are have the COEs for January. That's what I would do anyway if I worked over there.
Yeah.
And there's another side which we can talk about later, but I don't think it's that important, and that's the whole written pledge and the whole all the measures once you get to Japan. You have to write a written pledge. You need to they'll be tracking you and all sorts of things.
Mm.
What's one of the things that surprised me the most, Davide, was I was not expecting, to be honest, and I think I've read recently that it has changed slightly since this announcement on the 5th of the 6th, is the whole, when they announced the business people were able to enter Japan with a
Mm.
vaccine and quarantine for 3 days. I thought, hooray, we're in 3 days isn't too bad. People can sort of quarantine. But then when I read that it wasn't going to apply for students, it's one of the most unfair situations, in my opinion, especially for students who have been waiting for so long, have put their life on hold, are studying at 2 a.m., 1 a.m., waking up at 6 in the morning to do their studies, are paying already for their studies, and yet they are being imposed a 14-day, which I read, if I remember correctly, it's been brought down to 10 days if you're vaccinated.
Yeah.
So why this unfairness? What do you think?
I mean, to be honest, I don't know what they're thinking. Like, it's a great question, and there is no logical explanation besides the fact that some lobbies, business-related lobbies, have put, they could put more pressure. They have a different position. I'm not. I started this movement called educationsnontourism.com. I started my YouTube channel. I even started to be on Twitter just because of this. Literally in May this year, I started all of this. I never been reaching to NHK or TVs and newspaper in Japan. I never had any of those contacts. I just started because it was important to try to lobby and reach. I think we did something. At least students were included, but of course the results, like you said, it's completely different. Like some groups, even if they come short term, they can come for only 3 days quarantine, and there is no limitation. Of course, the number is much lower. I understand that. It's not 148,000 students.
That's what
the number is very different.
What I suspect is that basically the number of business people entering for short term will be spread out throughout the whole year, and will likely be much smaller numbers, which will be much easier to control. But it's still a very unfair policy, in my opinion, because students are already committed to Japan, have already been waiting, and have already been paying, some of them, for studies for Japan. And I don't understand, and I do hope that things do change. I'm not going to get into a discussion of vaccinated or not vaccinated, because that's not what I want to get into, and I try to keep away from that. I myself am vaccinated, and whatever people think, if there's going to be a policy in place where certain vaccinated people are going to be allowed to enter for 3 days, then it should be across the board. It should be exactly the same for everyone, regardless of whether they're a student, a business person, or in the future, maybe even a tourist. I have always suspected that people were going to be allowed entry into Japan in different groups. I never expected Japan to open the borders completely to everyone at the same time, because of the way that Japan is. But I did really strongly think that they were going to allow all students in at the same time. I never expected students to be broken down into even further subgroups, to complicate the issue even further, and to make students wait even more. So
I made a poll. I made a poll on my Twitter yesterday, asking if students were happy or not about the current borders, about the new border rules that let people enter with the COE, the thing we just said, right? And 93% of students say no, and 7% say yes. I mean, wherever else in the world, when they made a rule that now people can finally travel, or when there is any easing in regulation, usually you have people really happy. Oh, finally, now I can do this. Finally. This is, I think, is the only time in the last 2 years since Corona started that the country has made a rule to ease in the borders, where 92% of the people, 93% of the people are absolutely unhappy. So obviously, they just didn't make the right move. And again, I think students have been mistreated by the government once more, even though they went through all this year and a half of wait. When there was the time, kind of, I wouldn't say fixing, but making it up at least, trying to show that now, okay, because of Corona, because of cases were high in Japan, because of the Olympics, because of the elections, whatever, we have been waiting. But now, okay, we understand you can enter within 3 months, all of you, with this extra paper, whatever. Now they completely missed that, giving this crazy step by step. And the thing is also that most of the students actually will be entering next year. So it's not much gradual, right? People that are waiting from last year are not many. So even if people can enter, let's say in December, it's going to be very few people entering. So you're actually starting to have more people all concentrated again in January, February. And then you also have the new students coming in it's
And
still going to
we'll
create
talk about the
a
new
bit of a
students
mess.
later is one of the points, but I am going to pause there for a minute because we do have a lot of people in the chat asking
Yeah.
questions, and maybe now, and they've been very patient listening to us. I hope, however, that some of the questions that have been asked have been answered already in a way through a casual chat that we're trying to have. So,
To Casa Chat.
you
Yeah.
know, so please remember that I'm here with Davide. I am trying to use, to use him as much as I can to get as much of information and hopefully him equally with me so that then you can hear and we can answer some questions. So I'm not going to go all the way to the very front of the chat, but I'm just going to read and see. For example, here Nisa Nikoge says, "What about universities? I have a COE issued in July 2021, and they are telling me that they need to issue a new one. And I don't understand why, since supposedly OCOE's expiration date is extended." So
yeah, what the student's saying is correct. If she has July 2021, she doesn't still have a date to enter, unfortunately, because that's kind of recent COE. Possibly will be February next year, but we don't know. This is just guess we can make. Of course, we still hope that they speed up and anticipate, but we don't know. The thing that the university says sounds strange to me, but again, at the end, your university is your, as you say, is the person you should really contact because they know your case.
Yeah, definitely.
So
individually,
you want to clarify
yes.
with them why. Yeah, individually,
And
why
also,
do you need a
it
new
might be
COE?
dependent
Is
on
there
your
any
country.
reason?
You just really don't know because Japan might be looking at different countries in different ways, and there might be an outbreak some in your country, and unfortunately that might affect you entering Japan. Also, we have to also realize that we are in a pandemic, and things are working in a very strange way. However, so I hope Davide did answer that question. My understanding, Davide, was that all COEs were extended until January 2022.
That was before, but then they already announced that COEs until I'm not having my notes in front of me.
Yeah.
So
Neither
please
do I. That's why. Neither do I.
Do your own research.
Yeah.
Do your own research. Double check what I'm saying because this is more kind of a casual chat I'm doing with Nathan.
Yeah.
I'm not informing a student about what to do.
Yeah.
But of course, we are here also to talk about it. If I don't make mistake with dates, every COE that was issued until March 2021, so March 2021 or earlier, has already been extended to April 30th of April 2022.
Okay.
Officially. The later COE, the extension will be communicated later. So in case of a July 2021 COE, for now is only 6 months. Yeah. But there is, of course, since the older one has been extended, probably even that COE will be extended. So again, that's why I say talk with your university because probably they just need to keep up with the information. But yeah,
and be patient and be positive. I do think that now that the cases are so low in Japan, and now that basically things seem to be moving, and Japan is finally taking steps. We have to remember that Japan is taking steps. Something that hadn't happened for a very long time. Things are actually moving, for a very long time. So we have to remember, and I am quite hopeful, and I think that we will hopefully be seeing changes coming soon, hopefully soon,
2 weeks ago was I think it was the 29th of October, before the elections. We still had no idea,
literally nothing.
Japan was even going to open to one person, to one foreigner. So now we have actually sort of timeline, really weird. At least we got one. Some people will be able to enter this year, even if it's not many. But compared to 2 weeks ago, it's a huge improvement. So hopefully in 2 weeks, 3 weeks from now, we have some other improvement.
I've never seen MOFA, the MOFA website being updated so much in a week in my life.
Actually updated.
So this it's all good news. I mean, it's all good news relative to what's happening, that things are moving, and hopefully it will mean that those of you who have had the COEs issued back in the beginning of the year that will now be able to enter in November or December, it will hopefully mean that shortly in the next month we will see a change and we will see things moving along, and hopefully will mean that they realize that there's a lot of students from 2021 that are no longer going to come, and that there's not as many students. I think you did a poll on this, and I noticed that actually there aren't that many students that can enter in November, and maybe the government will realize and will bring everything back. That's my hope anyway,
We are passing this information to the government. Likely, we could build some channels in this past month, so at least they are aware about. I mean, they should be aware anyway. But in case they are not, we are telling them, hey, look, only 5% of students are actually able to start to apply in November, and other 5% about in December. So consider that and maybe anticipate a little bit your schedule. They said this is not just to us. It's been also said on NHK and in Nikkei newspaper. They said that they are flexible and they will consider also improving the schedule. So again, it's not going to happen, I think, right away because they just decided the schedule. But hopefully, in the next few weeks, we can hear some positive news. I mean, there are reasons to be positive.
I'm going to stop there. And actually, before we go any further, if you don't know Davide, then you definitely need to subscribe to his channel and check out his social media, especially if you are a student, because he does a lot for students. He is there in Japan and he can help. I put all the news in I think, a very easy way to understand, but David is definitely the student guy. The student guy here. So I have
thank you. I'll wait all of you on my channel. Thank you, Nathan.
So I wanted to also bring up a question that's here, and I'm just going to bring it up because actually we might not be able to answer this question, and you can understand that we might not be able to answer all the questions that are here. And one of them is, when will work COE be able to enter? Work, as in I'm guessing it's when will workers be able to enter Japan?
Okay, so sorry, Nathan.
Go ahead.
So for work, as you said, I'm more on the student side, so I'm not an expert at all. It seems that actually workers with their company can already start processing their application without any of these COE issuance date that we have set. So it seems that you as a worker need to make sure that your company, of course, needs to understand the information. So it will still take some time for your company. There's a lot of paperwork for businesses too, actually even more than students, I heard. So it will take some time, but you can start already, preparing your paperwork, and hopefully you can enter again maybe next month soon.
The MOFA website has just been updated maybe 2 days ago, and there's a section on workers, on short-term workers and on long-term workers. And something that has been added is that apparently workers will be able to enter with their spouses, and the spouses will be able to enter regardless of whether or not they have the special circumstances, which obviously is something that is very important because workers, they might be moving to Japan for a few years, and there's no way they're going to go to Japan and leave their families behind, So those family members or spouses or whatever that are entering with these workers will have to follow exactly the same outlined protocols by the company. The company will also, my understanding, will have to also give a certificate similar to the students. Basically meaning that the company has things in place to make sure that the virus doesn't spread and that the workers can be tracked, etc.
Okay.
So I will be diving more deeply into this in the next coming days or weeks, the next week or something. But it's been a very, very busy week. As you can imagine, I wasn't expecting to do a live stream with Davide on Thursday straight after work at midnight in Japan. So let's carry on with some. If there's any questions that you see, Davide, that you think it's worth looking at.
There's a lot of people that ask for tourism because I think your channel is very popular also for people that want to give to tourism. I've seen several people asking about tourism. Just give us your opinion. So maybe that's for you, Nathan. Sorry if I revert the thing.
Right.
What's your opinion about tourism?
Tourism. I've been very good and try not to give any dates, because I don't think that it's I don't want to first of all get anybody to purchase tickets and for them to then not be able to enter Japan and then from them to blame me. Also, as we've noticed, we don't know what's going to happen. Things can change. What I do tell people, though, is that if you are a tourist and you want to enter and you do want to take a risk, then make sure that your ticket is refundable or flexible, most importantly. I've been reading some articles recently that the Japanese government might be looking at experimenting with allowing tourism to enter Japan by the end of the year. I have not explored any further. I would like you to check yourself and read up yourself. I will be looking a little bit further into these sources. I try my best never to put anything in my channel that has only one source. I always try to find information that has multiple sources and sources that I can rely on, that are reliable sources. What my opinion is that probably, if not by the very end of the year, then hopefully in the early 2022. I can tell you that I have purchased tickets to go to Japan. I will tell you I will tell you when I've purchased tickets to go to Japan. My tickets are refundable. My tickets are flexible, and I am very lucky to be in a position that when I have actually purchased these tickets, I can cancel and I can change my plans without a problem because I'm a teacher. I've purchased ticket for July, so not the very beginning of the year, but mainly because of my schedule, because I actually probably won't be able to enter Japan until July. If for whatever reason I start seeing the signs and I start noticing that things are opening and I might be able to go in March or April for Sakura season, then I might be able to purchase a ticket and I'll be able to go then. But I am at the moment playing it rather safe and saying, for me personally, saying from the middle of the year onwards, hopefully by then a lot will have changed, and hopefully a lot earlier than that, probably in early 2022. I actually think that the way that students are being treated, and this whole situation might give tourists clues as to how things might work. For example, the 3-day quarantine, a question that I keep on asking people: if you're a tourist, how long are you willing to quarantine for? How much money are you willing to give up? The government is likely not to pay for your hotel. If you're a tourist, you will have to foot the bill. If they say 10 days quarantine, but you can enter as a tourist, then are you willing to pay for 10 days of a hotel and not being able to leave the hotel? So tourism updates. To be honest, in the last week and a half, as you know, I've been focused on students because that's the news that's been coming up has all been student related and business related, long-term visas and short-term business. So I will be exploring further on tourism. I hope to be able to clarify and make people aware of what's going on. And that's currently all I'm prepared to say. That, like I said, there are some articles that have come up recently, and I know that the Japanese government is hoping to start the go-to tourism very, very shortly in Japan. And again, I think that's just going to be a sort of experiment to see how things run, so that when they actually allow tourists into the country, they will be able to. I wouldn't be surprised if the government allowed tourists to enter in small groups to start with. Controlled with specific.
Probably.
I wouldn't be surprised.
It's not gonna be fun for them, but at least Japan can say, "Oh, we open to tourists," and then there's only 10 people.
I mean, the question is,
but yeah,
Davide, there are going to be some restrictions placed on students, aren't there, when they enter at the beginning? They're going to have to quarantine, and they're going to have to be tracked at the very, very, very beginning stages. My guess is that after the 14 days, they'll be able to live a normal life in Japan, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So it will be the same as for example, I went this summer out. I'm resident of Japan, so I could go out and come back, and I had to do quarantine 14 days. At that time, there wasn't a reduction for vaccinated. It was vaccinated or not, doesn't matter. You do 14 days. So I did my 14 days, but after the 14 days, of course, no one is checking anything anymore. So I think for students, the 14 days quarantine or 10 days, it's fine because they are long-term residents, so
Yeah,
they
of
don't
course,
really mind.
exactly. Yeah, yeah,
But for a tourist, it's completely
yeah.
different, right?
I mean,
Could be half of the holidays.
I honestly do think that the whole thing that's happening for tourists will really, in a way, apply perhaps to or help make decisions for what happens with tourists in the next few months. Personally, I also saw a question earlier on. I don't know where it was, but I wanted to bring that up, and that is which vaccines
Ah,
are accepted in Japan. It's a question that I'm asked a lot because I am aware that
mhm.
a lot of viewers might not be vaccinated with some of those vaccines. So the very first thing is Pfizer, AstraZeneca, and Moderna um, are the ones that Japan are issuing at the moment. Now, if you are not vaccinated with one of those three, as things stand at the moment, unfortunately, Japan will not accept your vaccine. That does not mean that you cannot enter Japan. If you're eligible to enter Japan, you can still enter Japan. The only difference will be is that you're a
Mhm.
business person or a long term person that wants to enter Japan. You won't be able to do the 3 days quarantine. If you're a student, it won't make much difference because you still have to do the 14 days quarantine, regardless of whether you're vaccinated or not. Now, I have been reading reports. I don't know if you've been seeing some reports, Davide, about the government considering actually accepting some of the other vaccines for entry into Japan. So,
Yeah, I think, like you said, at the moment it's not a big
yeah,
issue anyway, because
exactly, yeah,
if you fulfill the criteria to enter, you could still enter. And actually, for students, you can reduce your quarantine to 10 days with an extra PCR, with an extra PCR done the last day and leaving the day after. So at the end, you will stay 11 days in the hotel if you have one of those three vaccines. So there is a
yeah,
bit of
yeah,
shortening also for students, which is not much. It's only three,
yeah,
four
yeah,
days. While for short-term business travelers is actually shortened to 3 days, which is a
yeah,
huge advantage having those vaccines. But even if you don't have those vaccines or you are not vaccinated, you can still enter, do the 14 days. So I think that part is not a worry
yeah. I agree with you completely
for
here. Yeah,
students, workers. Mm.
yeah. But I just wanted to bring that one up.
And
Yeah,
mm, yeah, yeah, because people want it. There is a lot of people asking about the screening
yeah.
certificate. I want to just raise this because it's been asked
Go
like
ahead.
continuously. No, I just want to say that okay, so the screening certificate is basically an extra document that you need to receive from your sponsoring institution. So again, it could be the school, could be your employer, but they need also to get it from the immigration. So it's not that the school give you right away. In order for the school to get it from immigration or for the school or for the employer, they need to prepare all these documents that we were talking before. So it has to take some time. And also the immigration will process each screening certificate of each person. So imagine now that they're receiving requests also from workers, from
Yeah,
students,
yeah,
from business travelers, all these categories we mentioned. It's going to take time. So please inquiry your sponsor. So again, school or employer, but also understand that they may take 2 weeks.
yeah.
This I
So
don't know. This
what
is
would
I'm
be
just
this? This is
imagining.
probably a good question for those of you who are listening out there. What would be a good time frame for people to start pestering their institutes? For example, if they apply and they haven't heard back from about that certificate, when would you recommend that they start, getting a little bit annoying and start asking what's happening with the certificates?
I think that the best approach is actually to ask again the school and employer when do you estimate is going to be ready, and just follow their directions, because again it depends about when is your issued, which country are you from, how busy or how many applicants have as your sponsor at the moment. So there are so many factors, and again your sponsor has the most interest in having you starting to study and work. So there is no way why they would delay your entrance. That's absolutely no sense. So it just they need time because they are human beings like us and they need time to process and do the things right. So I think if you ask them when you estimate to be ready with my screening certificate, or which do you need any information from me, because apparently you need to also provide a pledge, and if you have the vaccine certificate, you also have to send it. So
Yeah.
there are a few things that you need to give first to the school in order to prepare the list of documents to give to immigration, and then immigration give the screening certificate back to the school, and then the school give it to you. So there are something you should do, but I think you should really ask your employer
Yeah,
or your school
definitely.
what you should do first and how long it's going to take. I think that's the best advice possible we can
Definitely,
give today.
definitely. Let's see. Again, there's a lot of people asking about tourism. I've mentioned that unfortunately, right now, the Japanese government, in a very, very similar way to how it was so tight-lipped for students for quite a while, and we didn't know what was going on for tourists, for students. Sorry. Well, at the moment, nothing has been said by the Japanese government about tourists officially. I've already mentioned that I think there's been some sort of whispers about maybe Japan doing some controlled entry for tourism before the end of the year, but in small groups. And I've already mentioned that I would probably expect, yes, I would hope that tourism would reopen and start in 2022. The question is, when will it restart in 2022? It's very well known that tourism brings a lot of money into the economy, and a lot of places are suffering that are tourist-based, restaurants, hotels, etc. So it all depends on how long can they hold on without tourists, and also how well is the situation in Japan in terms of cases and in your country. I keep on telling my viewers that it's important for them to realize that there is a chance that they might allow tourists from some countries to enter, but not from others. So you need to be prepared for that. If there's a new variant, for example, in your country, I wouldn't be surprised if Japan says sorry, but you can't enter because there's a new variant in your country. So, like I said, I will continue to be looking at tourism at the moment. Like I said, probably towards the first quarter of 2022, I would hope. And I've personally got tickets for summer. So yeah. Are there any other questions that have stuck out to you? Are you still awake?
I'm getting to my sleep
Yeah,
time,
yeah, yeah.
so it's gonna my
Yeah,
awakeness level is gonna
yeah.
go down and down. But I notice some people want to know, for example, students that don't have a timeline. So everyone that he was supposed to start in July or October this year doesn't have a timeline yet. So when can we enter? So if you look at the plan, it seems that you can start applying from February, even though they didn't specify. However, there are also hopes. I mean, I don't want to keep the hope high, but things could also improve. So it's not necessarily that it's going to be February, March. Hopefully, it can be a bit earlier. It's really hard to say now. I think surely will be at this point next year based on how things are going, but hopefully won't be too late. It will be very early next year, but that's just a hope that we have right now, and we will try to get this information as soon as possible, so at least all of you can plan. I think it's important
Yeah.
also for July and October 2021 students to start planning.
What would your recommendation be for anybody who is thinking about studying in Japan? Not applied, but thinking about studying in Japan, because one of the worries that I have is that there'll be people who are
Mhm.
thinking, oh, maybe I can go, September 2022 or whatever. Um,
Well, one thing, honestly, I can say, of course, uh, everything can happen. Corona may get super okay, under control, or may a new variant can come. So I don't have the medical knowledge, or I cannot even
yeah,
see the future, of course. So I can't really think about these kind of things.
yeah,
However, one thing is that if schools don't get students by March, April next year, they will be completely empty, because especially language schools have a 2-year cycle usually, and they stopped getting students from March, April 2020. So if the 2 years cycle ends without having a large amount of students entering, the schools will have no students, and obviously this is not possible for Japan. So they won't let that happen at that point. So if you're applying now, you can only apply now for July, because the April application is already closed. Japan has this kind of strange system. This is even before Corona. You need to apply 4 or 5 months in advance, etc. So for July 2022, I mean, you were talking about tourism, you're talking about tickets. I think it's very unlikely that people will still have these problems. I think things will be normalized by then. So if you're planning to start applying now for July or October 2022, I think you could do it. You only have to pay an application fee, which is about, depending on the school, $200 or $300. You don't have to pay everything up front at this point. So I cannot give any guarantee, obviously. It's not up to me, but I would say it's fairly okay to apply and just wait how the situation goes. I really hope for people waiting now to all be able to enter by early next year. So it's not going to be that still in April, May, there is some students that are here and there. Possibly by March and April, we want to normalize. So everyone is entered, and then April students enter in April, and so on. That's my hope. I hope
do people have to pay for the screening certificates?
No, not that I'm aware.
No. Okay,
again, these are new information.
Yeah, of course.
Those are all new information, so I could be wrong. I know that you have to pay for your
44,000 screening certificate fee. Jeff says.
No,
but yeah.
Excuse me, 44,000.
We don't. Like we said, we don't really know everything. A lot of this is new, and I really appreciate Davide helping, trying to make sense of some of these questions.
Maybe they're confusing screening certificate with PCR, could be, or other costs. I haven't heard so far that you have to pay for the screening certificate.
Yeah. Please, I do apologize that we cannot answer every single question. I think that a lot of the questions a lot of the topics that we've been speaking about will likely answer many of the questions that are there. Not maybe directly, but definitely. So I had a question here, and for me, it's a personal question from me to you, and that is how likely. Because I know that there's been pressure groups, and I know that you've been trying to pressure the government with changing things. How likely do you think the government actually is to listen to pressure groups and to actually change things as a result of trying to put pressure? Do you think there's been any change as a result of this?
I mean, everything that has happened is based on pressure groups, to be honest. Like, I didn't know about it because I've never been interested in politics and things here in Japan. But I've noticed that, when some certain groups like Keidan Ren, like huge business groups talk, they the things that happen after a few weeks are reflecting what was asked by them. Of course, if other groups talk, no one considered them. So I think that's the way that works here. But at the same time, it really depends about many factors. It's not as easy as, okay, if you make a group and you ask for something, then you get it done. But I've seen groups asking for things, and then that group, got what they were asking. So it's definitely something that's worth doing. And by the way, most of my actions actually don't really come from me, like I'm by myself. I work together with a group of schools that, of course, are in our association called Education is Not Tourism, and they basically also together in the when we have a meeting, when we talk, we decide together. So most of the decision makers of our actions are Japanese people, and I think they know, of course, since they've been in education for many years, they know what should be done. So they suggested us from the beginning, for example, to raise awareness in the Japanese media, because a lot of people in Japan don't even know about the issue, and the public opinion is also very important when politicians, of course, take decisions. So when we started to talk about, Japan is the only country in G7 that doesn't accept students. No one knew in Japan. Maybe the people knew abroad, but they didn't know in Japan. So we started to put that voice, and then many newspaper, like large mass media, started to talk about it, and now kind of people know it, and also we start saying, look, people are starting to apply. They quit going to Japan and they go to Korea. We publish few stories about students actually doing it, and then people kind of start to understand that there is a risk long term for Japan, also not accepting students, because people won't wait forever. People have choices and things like that. So I think it's very important what we've been doing. Of course, otherwise I would have not done it, and I think it helped to reach this point. However, we are not where we wanted to be. I mean, this decision at the beginning made us happy, but then when we found all the conditions, it completely made us like, okay, so what? We still need to move and help students to enter earlier as soon as possible, because they've already been waiting for so long.
Yeah, sorry, I was just removing somebody from the chat who was Anyway,
Yeah.
I think we're going to start finishing off. I think it's nearly 1 a.m. over there. If there's any last questions from anyone, obviously this is your chance now.
Yeah, I seen the one question interesting. Is tourism open in Korea? Because I just mentioned Korea, so I wanted to just say that. Actually, yes, Korea never shut the borders. However, you need to do quarantine. Yeah. So I'm aware of people that went to Korea for tourism. I mean, they really wanted to go. They did 2 weeks quarantine and then maybe 2 weeks sightseeing. But technically it's open. Students can go. Actually, my business also has a branch in Korea called Gogo Hanguk. We do exactly the same. We bring people that want to live and study in Korea, and we've been doing. We've been accepting students non-stop during the pandemic. Of course, again with the quarantine, Korea hasn't had any cluster coming from students, which is an extra proof how students are absolutely not a threat. Actually, no foreigners coming to Japan vaccinated or even not vaccinated with a proper quarantine is absolutely not a threat.
Exactly.
And you have data to show it. It's not like
exactly.
I would never say it with my opinion. It's just
It's
data.
data.
There wasn't a cluster
100%, yeah.
based on that. But yeah, I mean that's probably not what what the decision maker in Japan are thinking.
One of the things that I said in my last video that I posted was, for those of you who do enter Japan, please follow all the requirements, because prove to the community, to Japanese people and the government, that we are not a threat, that foreigners are not a threat.
Yeah.
And you have to play your part in that also. So don't go entering Japan and breaking the rules. Basically, is what I'm saying. It's quite important.
Especially the first people entering, especially the first people finally entering, the first students, the first workers entering. I think the way Japan thinks, they will really use it as a test. If that goes well, if you guys first enter in Japan, follow the rules, don't create any problem, more people will be accepted earlier. On the other side, if after a week or two already people breaking the quarantine and creating problem, I think they will be more strict. So I think it's really up to us a little bit at this point as well.
Somebody's asked about working holiday visas, and I was reading something. I haven't done much investigation. I've had a very, very crazy week. But my understanding is that you will be able to likely apply for a work visa, but it will be exactly the same. You will need your first place of work to issue that same certificate to then allow you to enter Japan. And once you're in Japan, then you'll be able to work tourism visa. I think the question, working holiday visa is what I'm talking about. So in theory, I don't see why you wouldn't be able to find somebody to sponsor you for the first job to get that certificate and then stay in Japan. I will be looking a little bit further into that. Somebody asked also if I speak Japanese. The question is very little. Maybe I will have to go on to one of Davide's courses, and
absolutely.
Maybe I'll be one of the students asking the questions. When can I enter as a student?
When I get to Japan, what about the certificate? Yeah.
But anything you'd like to? I mean, would you like to end the stream, Davide?
I think we went through a lot of the questions.
Yeah.
And I know that some people want to know very specific things. David, the Discord has been very helpful. Yeah, we also thank you, Jeff. We also have a Discord community. We created, I think, a few weeks ago that already got over 1,000 people. It's for student workers, for everyone, really. Maybe Nathan later, or you can just find the link in my channel, but we can share the link. It's a different space than YouTube, a Discord community, right? You can really chat, and there is a lot of information post there. It's a bit more informal, so you get also kind of a link, but you get the information very quick. So I suggest you, if you need to find people like you, maybe waiting, and also place, to share, to kind of, get stronger together. Because at this moment, maybe we can just close talking about how to stay positive in those times, because mental health is something, Nathan, I know that you're also very, very aware of it, and you actually asked me.
Yeah, I did ask him to talk about that.
This live to mention it, right? So I think mental health is one of the main area that it's been really tough for whoever has been waiting, student workers, couples, I mean, of course, families. And it's important that you take care of it. So first of all, you're absolutely not alone, because there are literally 380,000 people. It's not, I'm making up the number. It's been published. 380,000 people that have been suffering like you for up to 2 years now, 1 year and 7-8 months. Second, there are a lot of resources nowadays online, free resources on the internet. Also, every country has their, free specialists or free consultation. Please go there if you feel that you are not getting to a right place because of the ban, because you cannot go to Japan, because you cannot do what you were planning to do since 1.5 years and 2. Please do so. Sometimes be part of those communities, like the Discord community, could be helpful. For some other people, actually, that's not good, because they just keep thinking about it. So it's really up to you. I'm not saying you have to go to the Discord community. It really depends on the person. Some people find it very helpful. Some other people prefer to just forget about it until I can go. For 2 months, I want to just do other stuff. So it's really up to you.
And don't forget that
Try
it's
to find
normal,
things to do.
It's normal to feel the way that you feel, which is very important, to realize that it is disappointing. You have been waiting a long time. You have put your life on hold. It's a very weird, strange situation that you're in. It's not normal. This is not something that you planned. It's out of your hands, which is another thing you need to realize. But definitely, if you do feel really low, as Davide has just said, please seek help, and please find people that you can talk to. It can be as simple as speaking to a friend, as somebody who has suffered from anxiety in the past. I can tell you that it's important to speak. Sometimes just speaking to somebody will help put you at ease. And also remember that you might not be able to enter now, but you will be able to enter at some point. Don't forget that. This is not a permanent thing.
Hopefully. Absolutely. No, absolutely. I mean, you will be in Japan sooner or later. It may take still a few months. Now we have a plan. It's not complete, because some of the categories are not included, like students, for example, coming October this year, July this year. But they will get there. They will add it for sure, since they've done already the step of preparing a plan for some of the students. You will be in Japan, and I think what is important to also remind that everyone's life goes on, regarding of the time you will be in Japan. You will be in Japan at some point. You could even use those extra months that you still are in your country to do things that you couldn't do if you, for example, were already in Japan. You will be in Japan. You will be studying. You will be working in Japan when it's time. But right now, you still have a few months. You can improve your Japanese before going. You can do things that then when you move, you're not going to be able to do, because you're not in your country anymore. So you can still
save money.
Try as much as possible to be positive, save money. There are all these things that you can do. Someone was asking for the link to the Discord, so maybe Nathan, while you talk, I'll take the link, put it in the chat, and then we can.
If you put it in the chat,
drop it up.
Chat, definitely.
Yeah, I haven't done it yet.
Guys, I think it's been a very productive talk. I'm very glad that I've been able to get Davide on here. I really appreciate his time and the fact that he's it's 1 a.m. in Japan right now, and it's important. I remind you that a lot of the questions have been answered. You might have to re-watch the stream and listen to it from the beginning because we have touched upon many of the questions. And I remind you that we are not the government. We don't have power to change things. We can only inform you of the information that we know, that we can find. And sometimes it's very, very difficult to actually find the information. Sometimes you think that you found the information and then you realize that no, it's wrong, it's outdated. And sometimes you find a piece of information and I have to hold on because I don't want to share it without knowing that I'm actually giving the correct information to viewers. So again, I think if there's anything that you'd like to add, I think we perhaps will stop the stream here. And
Yeah, no, it was a pleasure. It was a pleasure, Nita. Thanks a lot for inviting. It was something different for me. I've never been in a like two people live stream like today. So I'm glad that you invited. I know that it's really really difficult for everyone watching. I know that there are a lot of questions, a lot of doubts. People need answer. People need to know when they can be in Japan, and still we can't really do. We can really give this answer. But things have been moving in the past 2 weeks with the announcement,
definitely, yeah.
and we'll do everything. I think Nathan also shared with me this mission to try to inform, with the right information.
Ooh,
So we
somebody's
will
calling
try
me.
to keep informing you. Oh
It's
yeah,
okay, carry
we
on.
will try to keep informing you as soon as information comes. And again, yeah, I will see you. I will see all of you hopefully on the other side in my channel,
Yeah.
and maybe me and Nathan, we can have another live streaming when we have some bit more information.
Yeah, definitely. Once again, thank you very much. And I always finish my videos by saying, stay positive because we need to stay positive. So thank you very much. And if I figure out how to end the stream, I
To
will.
close,
If I figure it out, I think I can figure it
we'll
out.
stop.
Let's see. Thank you very much. Stay positive, team. Till
Merci.
next time. Bye.
Matane,
Bye.
bye.
Yay.